Okay, so obviously, if you pay attention to the news or you read stuff or whatever, we are full virtual across the board, at least through the end of the school in December here, and we'll see how things shape up by January. So with that said, the next 8 days essentially before we go on holiday break, we've got pretty big stuff going on. Basically, we're going to finish 2.7 today, and then we're going to get ready and take a quiz over 2.6 and 2.7. Then we're going to get ready and take the chapter 2 test the day right before break there. That'll be really nice though, because then when we come back, we'll be able to start fresh with new material, starting January, whenever that, I think it's the third or fourth, something like that. And that should be just kind of nice for you to have it chapter 2 done and be able to move on to new stuff at that point. So with that said, we'll be kind of going through everything. Remember, if you got questions, you can email me. You can stop in those live help sessions. Don't let yourself get behind and roll into break, not on track and everything like that. So if you are behind, use these days to get caught up, get yourself in a good position. Okay, so this is what we just learned most recently, which was solving by substitution, where you're given a system and we're going to substitute the two into each other. Basically, we want to both solve for y. So like this equation's good, but this one we're going to want to solve it for y. So if I were to do that, I'd add the y over to this side, but then I'd also need to subtract the 2. So at that point, once you do that, it's going to be y is going to be on one side, and then 4x minus 2 is going to be on the other. And it doesn't matter if you wrote it as 4x minus 2 equals y. That's the same thing. So now we've got this and this equation, which we can set equal to each other. So we have the negative 3x squared plus x plus 4 equal to the 4x minus 2. And that is what we're going to now work with and solve. So you can go different routes with this, but no matter what route you're going to go here, since we're not doing graphing yet, we're going to talk more about graphing today. Basically, you want to move it to standard form. So we need to move the 4x over, and we need to add the 2 over to get 0 on this side. So now we have negative 3x squared minus 3x. Let's see, that's going to be plus 6. So now we're looking at a nice standard form quadratic. And from here, we can do one of two things. We can either solve it by factoring, or we can solve it with quadratic formula. I'm going to go factoring because this one does look like it's going to factor nicely because we can pull a GCF out of it. But you could go quadratic formula too. So I'm going to go ahead and take a negative 3 out of everything. That's going to clean it up and probably make it really easy. So we divide a negative 3 out of everything. So these both become positive, and that becomes a negative 2. At which this is now a equals 1 factoring. So my c is negative 2. And the only factors of negative 2 that'll add to a positive 1 would be 2 times negative 1. So this is going to factor to x plus 2 and x minus 1. And then my solution should be pretty obvious to me. So one solution is going to be negative 2, and the other solution is going to be positive 1. Now, that's almost the solutions. Remember, since this is a system, it does have x's and y's. So we need to take our two x values, because remember, these are technically going to be parts of coordinates. So you basically have these two x values. You need to find their corresponding y values. So what I would do from here is I would just go to this equation, which is going to be really easy to work with, and substitute your x value in to see what y value you get out. So 4 times negative 2 would be negative 8. Minus 2 more would be a negative 10. And that's going to be our first coordinate point. And then we take 1 and we put it in. 4 times 1 is 4. Minus 2 is going to be 2. And those are going to be our two solutions. So this is the substitution. This is great review. Like if you're getting ready for the quiz and the test, which we are, this has a lot of stuff to it. It's setting two problems equal. It's moving it into standard form. It's factoring. It's using zero product property to solve it. It's substituting back in to find corresponding y values. This is a whole bunch of stuff wrapped into one problem that we've been learning for months now at this point. Now, could you graph this? Yes. And that's going to be kind of the piece that we're going to get into and we're going to talk about today as a great check to this style of problem and to make sure that these match up with what we've got. So at this point, I can graph this. And, there's nothing wrong with doing it. If we put this in and we graph it, we can look for the intersection points so we can see. Whoops, help type it in right. Look at the intersection points and we can see if it matches the solutions that we found. So 4x minus 2. Okay, so if I graph this, it should intersect at those same points that I just found. And I think that looks pretty good. Let's just visually check them here. So -2, -10, -2, -10. That definitely looks like that point. And 1, 2 definitely looks like that point. Now, you can just snap to those points too and get them. If you want to find the intersection, you can do that. Let's say we want to get this one over here. Make sure it's actually at 1, 2. Yes, it is. Same thing down here. Now, you can do it on decimals. You can do it on here. And if you're anything like me, you're probably thinking like, why would I ever do all this? And, it's kind of, the way I look at it is, this will get you through probably 75% of things. And if you're fine with that, then yeah, you can pretty much understand that. If you want to make sure you understand everything and you can do all the problems, you can do everything, because they're not always all this easy as you go forward. You got to understand all the pieces that come together to make it happen. So that's sort of the difference there. If I'm taking the SAT and it's on the calculator portion, how do I do this problem? This way, 100% of the time. If it's on the no calculator section, what do? I do it this way. So there's definitely value to understanding both methods. So just keep that in mind.